Hello and welcome everyone, it is me, the Laval, also known as the Power to Duelist, back for you with a follow-up episode on a deck I have been enjoying a whole lot of playing for the last month. Of course, talking about Dinoruffia or Dinorphia as the official translation seems to be. And minus talk about those. So yeah, I've been playing this a lot, kind of got a better idea now what I am talking about, so I will be giving you guys a small rundown of the deck again. Just, to catch you guys up to speed. Then we will be looking at a few replays together to see what the deck does and, is able to, don't. We will then proceed to talk about the pros and cons of this deck and what kind of my thoughts after almost a month of playtesting are. And then I will probably put some replays in the end, but without commentary. Going through the main deck real quick, we have our main deck monsters in Dinoruffia, Theresia, and Diplos. Theresia on summon sets a Dinoruffia trap directly from your deck. Diplos is an Armor Knight for the archetype on summon, so he dumps a Dinoruffia card. Both have an additional effect when you are below 2000 life points, which is, the threshold effect. She gains 500, he burns for 500. And both can float into another level 4 Lord Dinoruffia for the low cost of banishing a trap when being destroyed by battle or card effect. Effect Veiler could really be any hand trap you like, but this is the one I went with because it is fairly accessible. Fossil Dig, because these are dinosaurs. 3 Rotors, I'll take it. Pot of Duality is another budget decision I made. You will probably on the high end be playing that Prosperity. Initially, I also theorized with Extravagance, but stuff like this kept happening, and this is why Duality or Prosperity is the optimal choice. Caught by the Grave against those pesky hand traps, because this deck really doesn't like them. Going into our very expensive trap lineup here, we got 3 Dinoruffia Domain. This is your fusion trap card. All of the Dinoruffia cards basically say pay half your life points, and this pays half your life points, and fusion summons a Dinoruffia fusion from extra deck using monsters from hand, deck, or field. And when your opponent activates a counter effect, just like all the other normal Dinoruffia traps, while you're below the threshold of 2000 life points, you can banish this from the graveyard and take no effect damage for the rest of the turn. Alert pays half your life points to special summon up to 2 Dinoruffias from graveyard whose levels equal 8. Also has, the banish effect to protect from effect damage. Torrential Tribute is a really good card for the deck as your monsters all have floating effects, so you are able to take a good bit of advantage of that. Trap Trick is card number 40. Dinoruffia Brute is, I guess, half an Icarus attack for the uninitiated, pays half your life points, destroys a Dinoruffia you control and a card your opponent controls, and has the effect damage protection. Going into our expansive counter trap lineup, we have Reversion, pays half your life points while you control a Dinoruffia fusion to copy a counter traps effect that you banish from your graveyard. So you have the ability to copy Strike Judgment and your Sonic, which is really powerful. And just like the other Dinoruffia counter traps, this protects you from battle damage if you are below the life point threshold. Solemn Strike, Solemn Judgment, really powerful cards you want to run. Solemn Judgment pays half your life points, so it might as well be a Dinoruffia card at this point. Dinoruffia Sonic is your spell and trap interaction, because this negates the activation of a spell or trap card while you control a Dinoruffia and destroys a Dinoruffia at resolution. So you're able to trigger those floating effects again for some bonus advantage. Also, better damage protection. Going into our extra deck, talking about my, from now on, favorite fusion monster, because she is absolutely amazing. Dinoruffia Kentregina. Takes 2 Dinoruffias with different names, loses attack equal to your life points, so, that's the thing. But at least if she gets negated, you can move on to 4000. During the main phase, she banishes a Dinoruffia normal trap as a quick effect and resolves that normal trap's effect when activated as her own effect, which gives you additional opportunities to resolve Domain, Alert, and Brute for either additional fusions, extensions, or interruptions. Also, she floats when destroyed, so there is that. Very nice, really like her. Then we have Stealth Begia. Have to correct something that I initially said, which was this absolute gem of a line. Then we have the defensive fusion, and probably the one you want to make first, because in no way, shape, or form is it advisable to make Stealth Begia before Kentregina, because you usually just end up limiting your Kentregina's attack points and wasting a bunch of resources, because Kentregina alone enables you to also banish Domain and go into Stealth Begia, so always make her first. But Stealth Begia is nice nonetheless, because while you're below life points threshold of 2000, you do not need to pay life points to activate trap cards or Dinoruffia monster effects. Really cool. And also when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can quick effect burn your opponent for that monster's attack, which can net you a few wins here and there. Also, floats when destroyed, really nice. Going into our super poly targets of Tri-Fee over Rutum. Every time I read that name, another letter appears. A Starving Venom, a Drago Stapelia, a Mud Dragon of the Swamp, Evorza Lagia, and Dolka, Solemn Judgment, and Solemn Strike on legs, essentially. Really powerful monsters. Should always make these when you have the chance to. Cost me a game in the replays we will be talking about, but, you know, it do be like that. Nightmare lineup of Unicorn, Phoenix, and Cerberus. You could probably also fit in, you know, different other links you like, or, you know, a small Utopia package as I was initially running. But preference, you know. Side deck, a Pancratops to going second. Santa Claus could also be any kind of kaiju, because this deck really lacks removal that is not destruction. Harpy's Feather Duster as a major blowout card. Super Polymerization is just insane in the deck. Infinite Impermanence to help going second and against, you know, some other decks if you need more head traps. Heavy Storm Duster against other back row decks, and Red Reboot is also a really powerful option that you can take full advantage of. And with that, we will be moving on to some replays. And with that, we will take a look at a match me and my good friend Dire Reaper had yesterday evening, actually. I will proceed to summon the Diplos. He will ash that. I will set 4. As you can see, he is on Unchained. I will Trap Trick here in the end phase for a domain, trying to get that going. Activating Theresia will net me a Trap Trick response. That Ash Blossom will find itself strike, because I really want to get a Kentregina onto the board right about now. He will proceed to set a Heavy Storm Duster. We will be making a Lagia to kind of respect that, but I do not feel too bad about his section of targets, because if he hits those 2 Torrentials, I don't mind that in the slightest. We're getting into some damage, and as you can probably tell, he has bricked quite a bit. And after negating that Ice Dragon's Prison with Lagia and resolving Theresia and Diplos again, which is really nice because you can chain block those if you summon him off alert, he will proceed to pass turn again and hit the surrender button. But we will see how games 2 and 3 pan out for me here. And with that, we move into game 2. We have sided in a few stuff. You see him popping the Abomination's Prison here with Arua to get an additional Unchained to another deck. The Fossil deck will find itself ashed again. Set 4 and pass the turn here, because I don't really mind anything happening right now. We will see direct attacks with Arua, Sarama, and Rakea. Rakea will attempt to pop here. The floating effect, I will hit that instead of, you know, any other effects of these Unchains to kind of keep them out of rotation. We will be proceeding to normal summon Diplos to dump Theresia just in case we get him off the board. He will Dimension Ground here. I will alert, chain a Super Polymerization here so I can get both main deck monsters back. Trigger the Theresia, grab a domain. He will find an Ice Dragon's Prison off the top. I will domain here, going into Kentregina. He will Torrential me, which kind of hurts, I guess, but we do have some floats to go into. Summoning the Diplos back, the Theresia, and another copy of Diplos, which can net us some neat searches and dumps. I will dump a Sonic here so I have some battle damage protection just in case. He will solve Disaster into Rage. He will attempt to Soul of Rage Link off, going into the, and here we see the Ice Dragon's Prison come in really huge, banishing Kentregina as well as the Theresia I had on board. Dumping a Diplos, being locked into Dinoruffias by the alert really hurts here. Top deck Sarama, sets Disaster, Disaster brings back Rage. Anguishment will link itself off as well as the Abomination. Abomination triggers here, pops the face down Solemn Strike, but I cannot keep myself alive for another turn. And with that, we move into game 3. Very familiar start here. Will attempt to summon the Diplos, dumping Theresia in case we are able to pop that Diplos with the Sonic here, so we can get that float. Domain will be met with an Ash Blossom, which is really sad. Drawing into Solemn Strike here. Trap Trick will be met with a Sonic, because I don't want him getting too Heavy Storm Duster. Diplos will float into a Theresia here, which will grab me another domain, attempting to get Kentregina onto the board. He will reveal King of the Sky Prison in hand after, you know, summoning the Sarama. Sarama will be negated in the graveyard by a strike. We will attempt to domain here, which is going to meet with a D barrier. He will run the Rakea into Theresia, summoning the Abominable Unchained Soul, discarding the King of the Sky Prison. I will chain the reversion he just popped, get Diplos back on the board, and negate the battle damage. We will alert here in the end phase, triggering Theresia again to grab the third domain. And this is the previously mentioned moment where I could have just made Dolka and won the game, because I overlaid 2 dips for Dolka here. The domain resolves and I am able to just win there, because I can negate the Ash Blossom, get over that Unchained Soul, and even negate the graveyard effect. But it do be like that sometimes. But yeah, I will probably have another replay ready that we can talk about here. Okay, this is a more random one I found while, you know, playing and playtesting. This is against Kaiju Gradle, I guess. We will proceed to Duality set 5 here. We will attempt to domain, going into Kentregina here, which will instantly find itself be buried under Gardala. Proceed to alert that back in the end phase, activate Kentregina here, banishing alert, summoning back Diplos and Theresia for additional searching. I do not want to deal with a summon limit, so I instantly get that thing off the field. Set a Brood of the Theresia, dump a domain of Diplos. Gradle Slime Jr. will float into an Eagle, and something I do have to be mindful of with these is that they all, you know, do something when destroyed by something. My entire board will get rolled over by the Round Boy. I will proceed to dig for a Theresia next turn. Eagle will steal that Theresia right off me. He will get his Round Boy back, but I am still feeling quite confident since I still have 5 back rows sitting here rather comfortably. Kentregina will banish a Brood, targeting herself and the face down. I will go ahead, summon the Theresia, set an alert. The Eagle here, it does not trigger because it was face down. I will alert back Kentregina here. Force the deck for a Diplos for some additional graveyard setup, dumping a Sonic, just, you know, for some additional battle damage protection. I will go ahead and Brood. Pop the Diplos that had already attacked, and pop the Round Boy, grabbing back a Theresia, which also nets me another counter trap. The Kentregina on the field couldn't attack because that was summoned off alert. Another Round Boy will hit the field. I will Solemn Judgment that own Round Boy, and with the number of cards in his hand left, it is basically just a matter of throw a negate at everything he attempts to activate, because we have simplified the game state wide enough to kind of do that. Drawing to Sonic here doesn't really do a whole lot because this already is game, but there was a game 2 to this, which we will be seeing right now. This is, you know, again, the same guy playing Luna Gradle Kaiju, I guess. Activates the Kyoto Waterfront. I will negate the impact here because that searches a Gradle on activation, which of course triggers Kyoto Waterfront. He will normal summon the Luna. I will normal summon Theresia here, where he will attempt to Luna that, but I do not want that to happen in the slightest, so I instantly strike that. Theresia will grab me a domain and punch him for 15, or at least attempt to. Here I misread the Gradle effects, because all of these apparently trigger by battle. And also, you know, they are color-coded specific things. I am going to domain here for a Kentregina. He will kill the Waterfront, add something back. I will proceed to Torrential Tribute here. And I will, of course, get back a few monsters here, because I can get back a Theresia and a Diplos for Graveyard Setup. See me dump the Sonic there. I will Brood the Comungus here, because this Gameciel is actually going to come in rather huge, since he still has his Kyoto Waterfront up, which is something that everyone playing Kaijus might need to remember at some point. Those Kaiju effects work on both sides of the field. We will Kentregina, banish Brood here, pop the Theresia to pop that Jizokiru. Attack with Gameciel, do not attack with Kentregina here because, you know, summoned by alert. Will negate the Kyoto Waterfront, will negate the terraforming, and then I will negate the own Kyoto Waterfront effect here. End phase Brutes for Diplos and the Gradle Parasite, it is called, to kind of get that back on the field and close out this match. But I will see you guys again in the deck profile where we kind of go over what this deck can and cannot do. And with all that out of the way, we are back with the deck list. Now for some kind of recapping thoughts on the deck on my side. As previously pointed out, you will in most cases you basically never want to make Stealth Begia before Kentregina, since Kentregina already enables Stealth Begia on her own. Alert is an insane card that I absolutely undervalued before, you know, initially building it, because having that double reborn or, you know, being able to revive Regina or a Stealth Begia is absolutely insane. And Kentregina has to be one of the best and most interesting fusions ever, in my opinion. Getting into some kind of cookie cutter pros and cons. I think the biggest advantage that this deck offers is spell speed 3. With, you know, 12 man deck counter traps, your opponent will find it tough to respond to your actions and find himself in many situations in which he cannot simply stop you from interrupting him. The deck also offers a good grind game based on, you know, the floating effects and also the constant revival that Dinoruffia Alert offers. You have some interesting options for the main deck and side deck. Super Poly is a really powerful card, and for the main deck you could also work with like Hope for Escape and End of the Line once that drops, and the Dino variant is also something too consistent. On that Dino note, the consistency. Fossil Dig definitely helps. Having essentially 6 copies of each main deck monster makes it rather easy to find yourself in a position where you can get into your engine and start grinding out a game, which is, you know, a huge advantage. Just being dinosaurs gives you access to so many powerful cards, Lagia, Dolka, and, you know, I haven't even talked about the Dino variant, which I may do in the future. You do have a good amount of flex spots, because if you consider that this hand trap playset, the Torrential and the Trap Trick, and I would even say the playset of Solemn Strike, kind of are interchangeable depending on where you are and what you want to accomplish. So you do have some flexibility with your build. I would say that, you know, running a lot of 3-offs in terms of archetypal cards is very important, and Solemn Judgment as well, but the rest is purely up to preference. Getting into some negatives, as you have probably seen in that first game against Dire, this deck really does not appreciate hand traps. Hand traps ruin your day, and out of like the 4 more relevant ones at the moment in the current format, Ash, Veiler, Imperm, and Gamma, the first 3 hit this deck rather hard, because you can Ash Domain and you can Imperm the summon of the Theresia as well as Veiler it, which is a big problem that this deck doesn't really have a lot of tools to go against. Like many control decks, you know, this is kind of a given. It struggles to go second and struggles once the side deck comes into play and blowout cards start seeing play, like Evenly Matched, Harpy's Feather Duster. Another thing I noticed is most archetypal back row requires face-up monsters on the field. So, for example, against a card like Flunderies and the City of Dreams, which is a very relevant matchup going into this post-boat format, you will find yourself getting your entire board Book of Moons and not being able to do anything. And if that happens, you probably will lose that game, because you have an entire turn where you do not do anything. And that is absolutely devastating to the deck. And the last point, something that kind of I expected before going into that Unchained matchup with Dire, because we kind of played this match a few times. Non-destruction removal absolutely wrecks this deck's day. If you cannot basically get your floats guaranteed in, because your opponent has a way to remove your monsters, which is not destruction, like a banish or linking them off in the Unchained case, you will not have a good time, because this means you do not get additional summons out of the Theresia and Diplos for further setup, and just in general miss out on a lot of card advantage. But overall, I think this is still a really fun and definitely promising control deck in terms of potential. Have not tested the Dino variant. That is something that may happen in the future, and I have heard a few good things about it. Will probably leave a video link down below if you are interested in that, because I have seen a few videos on that already. But in general, I am hyped for this to come to the TCG, and I'm already, you know, kind of planning out how to efficiently get the cards together, because this is a really fun deck that I really do enjoy, and yeah, it definitely holds a lot of promise, I think. So with this out of the way, because I will probably put some, you know, replays behind this with some music, let me know what you think of this deck down below, if you have done some testing, or maybe if this has gotten you interested in the deck. And I will thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys again next time. But until then, goodbye.